song. All right, give me some beautiful young ladies.
My name is Natalie Battles, everyone. Hello, I'm the office manager here at the Southside Community Arts Center, and I just want to say again how grateful we are for all of you all to come out here on this Martin Luther King Day to help celebrate and honor this amazing man who gave so much for all of us. And so I would love to start by having these beautiful young ladies introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about whom they are and why this day is important to them, and then we'll hop into some questions, and you all will have the opportunity to ask them both questions as well. And we know Miss Jeanette Blackwell actually played a role in the film, so she will talk to us a little bit about being on set and the story behind this amazing film. And Miss Katanya, I would definitely like for you to tell us a little bit more about your grandfather, Mr. Ravy, and how important his role was to Dr. King and the music as well. So let's start with you.
Well, thank you for inviting me to join you all today. It's a very special day, and glad to be here with you guys. So I'm Katanya Ravy. I am an urban planner and an artist. I am Chicago born and raised, and I am the granddaughter of Al Ravy, who was a civil rights leader here in the city. And he was actually he invited Dr. King to the city to lead the movement around the housing segregation issues and redlining issues around just unfair housing practices that were taking place here and elsewhere in the United States. I guess a little bit more about me. I really don't know really what to say. I'm kind of waiting for the questions, and I'm not really sorry. But yeah, we can practice.
Actually, Katanya and I met about 15 years ago? 15 years ago. We were working in social services together, and she mentioned that she was related to Al Ravy. And so I was just really honored to say that I'm standing with the offspring of such an amazing man. And so when we decided to plan our program for Dr. King, I immediately thought of Katanya, and I felt that she had so much to contribute to what we were trying to do here. Myself, as you probably saw, I was one of the marchers and background artists in the film Selma, and that came about when they were casting and they wanted people who knew or grew up during that time and may have some remembrance of the Dr. King and the civil rights era. So my agent said, go meet these people, go talk to Ava DuVernay and so on and so forth. And she sent my headshot and resume. And long story short, I was called to be a marcher, and Ava had specific places that she wanted me to stand. She seemed to always want to put me between John Lewis or somewhere near John Lewis for some reason. I don't know. That's her vision. But the film itself almost didn't get made, and Ava was not the original director chosen. It was actually John Singleton who was chosen to do the film. But Hollywood had some restrictions, and they had their angle that they wanted the story to be told from, and John Singleton had his angle, and they couldn't come to some agreements. So the project was scrapped, and then they asked Lee Daniels to do it, and Lee Daniels had just gotten Star. and got the green light to do Star. And so he said, look, I'm going to be busy with this new show that I got the green light for, but I've got an amazing woman, and I think you should really look at her work. She can do this film. And so they talked to Ava, and Ava wanted to tell it from a standpoint of Dr. King as a family man and how much he gave up to do what he did. And if you look at the film closely, I hope that is what you gathered from it. He almost lost his marriage. He didn't see his children very often. He felt guilty about people being beat up and killed for what he was trying to do, particularly at that moment when he was about to cross that bridge and he knelt down and said, no, this is not the time. And that monologue that he gave right after that really summed it up. He felt a lot of guilt and a lot of weight was on him because he was a human being. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you both ladies for being here. And we're going to hop into some questions. But before we go into some of the specific backstories between being on the film and your grandfather, I do want to talk about the film itself. And then you all have an opportunity to hop in here as well. So overall feedback of the film. First of all, I don't know about the other directors beforehand, but Ava did an amazing job. Ava did an amazing job with this film, and I definitely did read the family aspect in there. I hope you all did, because it definitely caught me. I caught myself several times while it was going, and I was just like, he was a man.
Yeah.
He was just a man. And how strong of a man he had to be to actually, all of those people actually, especially the scene on the bridge, how strong they had to be to literally walk towards and stand in the face of danger and certain death. Because, I mean, you couldn't tell those people in their minds they weren't about to die with these soldiers literally staring them down. But they stood there anyway. They walked and marched towards them anyway. The strength. And then, of course, Dr. King leading it and planning it. He was also a strategist, is something that I caught myself thinking in the film as well, which I never fully thought about, but this film made me think about he was a strategist, and it was so important to have as well. So if I could have your overall opinions on the film, and if anyone also from the audience had something that was just burning inside of them that they would like to say about the film overall, let's start there.
Well, the first time I viewed this film, when it was in theaters, I left the theater very angry. And it was really difficult to kind of figure out how to process some of the emotion that I was feeling at that time. And it took a few days for me to get out of my I hate white people. And it was really hard. And anytime you see a film like this, it kind of brings that out of you. Like, why did we have to go through all of these things when we want, the basic human rights that, or the access to things that everyone else has. And so the film was, able to draw that out and have people kind of like think about these things, but not just sit there with it. And I figured that I needed to redirect those emotions into a more positive space. And so, I still had to go to work, still had to operate, still had to, interact with people. And so, doing that, I think this came out in 2015. I'm trying to remember what phase of my life I was in at the time that the film came out. I think I was in grad school at the time. And, just having to go back into my courses and trying to think about that. And so I had this additional layer of like angst around, these issues that I was fighting. And at the time I was in grad school for urban planning, and urban planning would deal with a lot of issues concerning race, concerning, just access to capital, access to transportation, to housing, all of those things. And I remember just taking that energy into my classrooms and kind of going off on a couple of professors. Because there were some issues around, the professors not understanding some of these things. And so it was just this movie acted as a reminder for me and the work that I was learning. I was learning how to become a planner, but my professors were predominantly white men who just didn't have this level of understanding about these racial struggles that Black folks have endured and continue to endure in different ways. So the film itself was, just a real great reminder for me. I did not live through the time frame, obviously, but it's important for me and people after me to know this history, and and I'm glad that we have artistry like this, so that we do have a really well put together visual of what the times were like. We can read all the history books and read all the articles and all of that, but sometimes you just need that visual to go along with it. And so that's kind of what the movie was. It served its purpose for me to be able to kind of just remember that, and then also remember the work that my grandfather did here in the city and how. The thing, just kind of imagining what it must have been like for him, and the people that were around him to go through here in Chicago to make sure that I could have access to, the different things that I have access to now.
That was definitely something I thought about as well, how this was so necessary. And it was a reminder for me as well, and I just thought to myself, every young person needs to see this. Like, my son's 1 year old, but I was like, seriously, I was going to share, like, he needs to see this. Not right now, I'm going to give him a couple years, but he needs to see it. Because we need that reminder of what people had to go through for us to have the luxuries that we have today. Not saying that the fight is over, there's still so many things that is ongoing that we need to continue to fight for and push for. But they did so much. And so this was a great reminder of that as well. I also agree that, just watching this and knowing the history that African Americans had to go through in this country, it is an experience that only an African American can feel. And so I remember a while ago having a conversation with friends and saying, you almost need a sick day. And I wish you could just put that in at work. Like, I can't come in today. Do you see where we live? Because it's so hard just to visually see the things that on a day-to-day basis that people that look like you have to go through. It's so hard. And you feel that. And so I definitely identify with that as well.
One of the things that I want to expound on is setting up the marching scenes. The trick of a camera is you don't normally see what's actually taking place in setting it up. When we were kneeling with our hands behind our heads, some of us were given pillows, and I said, no, I don't want a pillow. I want my knees to feel this glass, gravel of what these people felt. If my knees bleed, they were, Mama, you want a pillow, Mama? No, this mama here is going to feel what these people felt. I want to feel that hot sun in those heavy clothes in the South, filming in June when it's supposed to capture the fall. Because I want to be true to what Ava is trying to present. This woman had a vision that she was trying to present, and she had a picture in her head of what she was trying to do. And when we would be, there was the scene in the church right after Jimmy Lee Jackson is killed, and Dr. King is in the church, it was a very bad rainstorm. And it was thundering and lightning, and the wind was blowing, and we had to shut down. And the production said, well, shut down. We got to cut this electrical stuff off because this is bad. And so we shut everything down, and we huddled in the church, and the church is shaking, and it felt like a tornado was coming through. And then all of a sudden, it stopped. It just stopped. And the sun came out, and in walks John Lewis, standing next to the actor John Lewis. Nobody knew he was coming. He hadn't called Ava and said he was coming. So when he walks in, Ava is like, and everybody's just shocked, and he was humble as he was, no, don't stop filming because of me, don't stop filming because of me. But who can go on from that moment? Everybody's shaking his hand, and we just needed a moment to process. You know, we're standing with a person here who was actually in the midst of it. And a lot of what you hear when he speaks is a result of those head blows that he took. He had permanent speech damage. That he, medicine wasn't what it is today as it was back then. So he carried a lot of that. And so a lot of his speaking is affected by those blows that he took. So there was just so many poignant moments that said that this was a film that had to be made. One that just had to be made.
Thank you for sharing. So how did you find out? I'm just curious to know how you found out that. Can y'all hear us without this, or do we need it?
We need it.
Okay. All right. How do you? You're the one that can project.
We had been filming all around the city of Atlanta, and so it was not hard to figure. Oh, that's where they are, because you got the big trucks and and production and so on and so forth. And it was a large set, and so many vans that transported us everywhere. It was like a caravan. When we go to this location, it was like a caravan. You had to shut the streets down because Atlanta is a small town that wants to be a big city. It's nowhere near Chicago. So when we moved, the city moved. And so it was not difficult for him to figure out, okay, let me just have my people follow their people. And so he was at the church, which was actually not Ebenezer Church, but it was down the street from Ebenezer Baptist Church, where Dr. King preached at. But the church itself, Ebenezer was going on some construction, but that was the church that we were at was a famous historical landmark, and so it was chosen as the site. And so it wasn't difficult for him to figure out where we were.
So now I'm going to open it up to you all. Is there anything that struck you about the film? Anything that you just have to say? Okay. Ready? You want the mic?
I think I speak pretty loudly, can I? Can hear you. Take it, man. Take it. Well, I can say from here, I think one of the things I thought was impressive is that, I lived through that movement. I wasn't there. I was a kid. I was a teenager. And it brought some kind of chronology to all the events that I remember reading about as a young person or hearing about. And that was really nice. I like seeing that film for that purpose. And also,
you mean the Jimmy D. Jackson character?
Everything in the whole thing. And I think that it was. And it shows that there was some strategy in the civil rights movement, the total movement. That's very impressive.
Yeah.
I got one question about the planning and production and the release. Did that all happen in May? 2015?
Actually,
or did it span?
No. We spent the latter part of 2014 shooting.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, my first day on set was June of 2014. And so it took, I believe we wrapped in November. We wrapped in November, and then we opened, the film had its opening that following week, Christmas of 2015. It had its national opening.
One thing I was impressed by is that they had all people of all races and ethnic backgrounds that did have a part. They definitely give them credit all the time for that. Because that was a big job. This is big life for that too. And I was impressed with that too.
That was definitely something that I noticed when watching the film as well. It is the initial reaction that you had as well. It's like, why did we have to go through all of this just to live and be human beings in this country? Why? But it's also when all of those people from the clergy and different ethnicities got off that bus in Selma and walked with all of those African American people, it made me proud. That they said, regardless of race or religion or anything else, I'm going to be here for humanity. That was powerful.
Yeah, I was just gonna say to that point, bringing it back to my grandfather's work. There were a lot of the same, the same kind of energy where there were people from all walks of life, all colors, that joined in on the marches here for housing and desegregation in Chicago public schools, and so that same kind of imagery can be seen from the work that was taking place here. And so that was pretty cool to see, just see it in motion in that kind of way. And I wonder, if there was ever a film to be produced, about Chicago's movements. That same kind of imagery, I guess, would, have the same kind of look and feel about it. Just from, my understanding, what I've learned. My mom's in the audience. I want to give her a shout out. She's actually the daughter of Al Rainey, and she was here as a child during those protests and marches. And he passed when I was 6, so I was a baby. But my memory of him is as grandfather, just like any other child, a 6-year-old would say, hey, grandpa, let's go have fun. Like he taught me how to play pool. We would do like fun stuff. And my mom's memories of him are more like, dad's memories, because he was very protective of making sure that she wasn't, because the same types of threats that came in his family were getting the same kinds of threats that my family was getting. They would get phone calls at the house, and I, of course, it wasn't around then, but just from retelling of a lot of these stories, it was very frightening because of the hatred that was thrown towards my grandfather and the people that he was working with.
And rumor mills and lies created to try to destroy what he was trying to do. I'm sure my grandfather had those stories.
Yeah, Mayor Daley, the original Mayor Daley, was not a fan. as many others, but he was a big detractor.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine, like, when Mrs. King had that monologue and she talked to him about, I could deal with everything else, but it's the death. It's that constant fear. People are calling me, threatening my children. I couldn't imagine what that felt like and how strong she had to be to stand by his side and still be there, holding him down. So that was amazing as well. Any other comments? Hi.
That's my granddaddy's best friend.
Al indeed was a friend of mine. And, one of the things I was thinking about, and you're right, about the threats and the difficulty of leading a movement against the power elite. And if there was ever a power in the city of Chicago, it was Richard J. Daley. And I I grew up and I got into politics because of the same kind of things Al was fighting against, and that was the dictatorial power of Richard Daley. But Al and Bill Berry and Rabbi Marks and just a whole host of people I can remember and seeing, just bringing up the memory, watching what was going on in Selma. It's the same kind of fights that we were fighting here in Chicago. So it's kind of emotional, and excuse me for that. But one of the things that I did want to point out in terms of what was important for Selma and what we're living through right now, and that is freedom of the press. The only reason you saw all of those folks show up at Selma was because the New York Times was just dead on it. Every day, every headline was about the horror that was going on throughout the civil rights movement, but especially on that bloody Sunday in Alabama. And so now we have white power elite that's trying to destroy the media, fake news, and all the rest of that. And the fight today is the fight against that kind of totalitarianism that is trying to be forced upon this country right now. Sabbath, shut up.
Can I say something to that? Take that even further. You're exactly right. The movement became powerful when it was broadcast in the living rooms of the people up north. When they turned on their televisions and said, "Oh my God, is this America? Is this real? This is going on." And so that's how powerful the media was or can be. It can open people's eyes to what's going on outside of their back doors. And so that poignant scene when they said, turn the television on, that was a powerful moment right there in the film.
Now it's constant. It's like there is no, one source for the news. You've got all of these different ways to access the news, and back to Ms. Jackie's point about fake news, you've got these competing news sources, whether or not they're legit or not, and then you've got just thinking about today and how polarized our country is around a lot of these very same issues. It's frightening because we have all of these different, it's for me, it's a sensory overload. Kind of feel like the first time I ever walked into a casino was really overwhelming because of all the lights and the noise. But that's the way I feel when I'm, online and you see all of these different things and you're receiving all this information. But it's like, how do you not only discern what's the right information, but then also how do you help those who don't believe what's right to kind of be on the right side of things? It's always liberals this or all of and I do consider myself liberal. I consider myself a quasi-feminist. You can talk about that later. But how do we make sure that our young people are hearing the right things and are really listening with intent and thinking about ways that they can take this information and change the narrative or make sure that the narrative is correct.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
I think the media is very important. I actually just recently started a production company called Melanated in America for that reason. Because we need to control fully what our young people see, what we see, the information that's being told, not just being the writer. Because like you said, even in this story, Hollywood has an angle that they want to put on it.
But what is the truth and how do we get that out? And so until we fully control our sources of media, it's going to always be something different, or our stories will never be told fully. And we had a couple more here and then here.
That's what she was trying to do.
Oh,
Can you come up a little bit in the microphone? We won't reach that far. What's that purple, by the way?
Thank you. This brings back so many memories for me. I grew up in Denver, and my father was one of the original Tuskegee Airmen, a pilot in World War II. I remember his stories of what they went through, having to fight, and then come back, and what German white prisoners were treated better than they were. I was forced bused in Denver to a school, South High School, that had a Confederate flag. They sang Dixie. And, this was when they were trying to integrate, around the country. There are all these little pockets of things that are happening everywhere. And the story of someone is just so helpful because, I would say to myself, I'm going through this stuff with busing, but just remember what other people have been through, the people before you. I think all of us can contribute the things you got through because you remember what other people have been through. And the media was helpful then. And the thing is now, people in power now have understood that the media now needs to be twisted for their ends. And that's the real dangerous, subliminal thing that's going on because it is feeding some people who are very demonic in my mind.
Yes.
And I don't know what we're going to do, but and I'll just end with this, the economy has changed. No longer can you open up a corner store and feed your family by opening up a grocery store in your neighborhood. Because the big conglomerates and everything is changing, and we as a people really strategically have got to rethink a whole lot of things. What to do in response, given what our ancestors have given us.
thank you for that. That is
Nothing but the truth. Thank you for that. We definitely need to start thinking about how to strategize, like Dr. King was doing, not only just for protesting, but how do we really hold on to our communities financially? How do we pass down the right information? How do we take back our communities, our narratives, our story, and our finances as well?
I'm happy to celebrate King Day with you all. I'm one of those people who, I had my little mini celebration, but I'm still usually, earning that living and, that sort of thing. One thing, when